I got to college and I realized how many of my roommates had no idea about the most basic things of finance, like how a loan works, what's interest rate, like kind of basic things. But a lot of people don't know this, and I was like, wow, I'm really grateful for a good dad.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Welcome to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where we inspire, impact, and empower.
Progress is impossible if you always do things the way you have always done things.
It's time to dream big. Here's your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and empower millions of people. I'm your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey, and today we have a very special guest and who is another dreamer, my friend Bridger Pennington, who has a very inspiring story that we all need to hear today. I met Bridger recently, actually one of the event we had in Salt Lake City. He does very exclusive event for Black Card member. Actually, I'm one of the member of his fun lunch program. And I have met his dad, John Pennington, and his brother. He's amazing. He throws amazing event in the cool places like Cancun. Next year, most likely we're having in Hawaii, Alaska. So all the good stuff. I'm very honored and privileged to have you in the show today. Excited. Welcome to the show, Bridger. How are you today? And happy Friday.
Sachin, good to see you, brother. It's fun to hop on. I'm just so happy for you and your success, and more people need to hear your knowledge. You're a very sharp dude. I'm grateful to come on today. It's gonna be really fun.
Thank you. So sure, I would like to let everyone know today that we're going to talk mostly about how to launch a fund, because Bridger is an expert. And one of the reasons I'm actually doing podcasts today and doing other stuff like launching a fund and having a fund is because of Bridger. And we're going to talk about that. And most importantly, how to launch fund without working on the Wall Street or having an Ivy League degree. So before we dive into the detail about that, I want to talk about a little bit about Bridger, and then I'm gonna ask him some questions. Sounds good?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So let's start with his bio. So Bridger Pennington is the founder of 3 investment funds that have done about more than 217 deals in the last 4 years. He recently launched a hedge fund with about over 10 million on their initial launch. Bridger Pennington is the co-founder and serves as a managing partner or general partner and interim chief compliance officer of Ugly Unicorn. It's a crypto fund. Bridger is also a co-founder and again CEO of the IFS, which is Investment Fund Secret, which I am part of. I'm very proud to be a student of this organization. Sure. My first question today, and any guest I ask in my show, is about who is Bridger Pennington and why he is in this world.
Yeah, do you kind of want just my story of how we got into this, how we did all this? So I got into college. I was, feel free to interrupt me whenever you want, but I got into college. I was very ambitious. Started 6 different companies my first years of college. So I started a Chinese tutoring company. I started an online marketing company. I started a real estate. We wholesale 2 houses. I tried every business on YouTube, like all these, like can you Google like how to start a business? Like I just tried them all. And I actually made a little bit of money in college, doing this, and I was trying stuff out. And finally, my dad grabs me, and I grew up in I would say not a bad home, but it's just a normal house, like nothing special, just a normal household. My dad drove a kind of an older car, and just that's what happened. My dad says, Bridger, go meet with my business partner. This guy can really help you out. And I'll kind of tell the story quick, real fast. But I drive to this guy's house. He lives in this gorgeous, beautiful mansion. I'm like, who is this guy? I walk into his house. He's got the cars, the basketball court in the basement, pool, beautiful home. And I'm like, man, like, who is my dad's business partner? This guy's legit. And so we sit down, we started to chat, and I finally asked the guy, like, how did you do this? Like, how'd you get all of this? And he goes, Bridger, funny enough, I was a lot like you in my 20s. I tried a bunch of businesses. I actually made a good amount of money, but then he goes, then I figured out the secrets of the ultra wealthy, ultra wealthy families of the world, the Trumps, the Vanderbilts, the Romneys, whoever you want to put out. A lot of them have worked in the fund space, and they make their kids go work in the fund space, the world of venture capital, private equity, hedge funds, real estate funds, or they have them come back home and run the family office. And if you don't know what any of those mean, no worries. We'll probably dive into it all today. But I was super intrigued. He goes, I met this guy that ran a private equity fund, and he was one of the wealthiest people I'd ever met. He's a younger dude, And this guy said, he's like, I made a goal. I said, I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care if it takes me 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years. I was going to figure out what a fund was, how to start one, and how to build one. And he goes, that's exactly what we did. So we went out and started these funds. And he goes, at the time, we're managing about $8 billion of real estate. So they did real estate funds, multifamily funds. To put that in perspective, if you guys follow like Grant Cardone, Cardone Capital, that's twice as big as Cardone Capital. And this was years ago. Today, they're over 10 times bigger than Cardone Capital. I mean, it's just crazy how much money these guys manage. And I was super intrigued. I was like, dude, okay, I'm young. I'm this young kid. I'm like, okay, can you be my mentor? I'll work for you for free. Can I bring you coffee in the morning? Or like, whatever you need, I'll bring it to you.
Right.
And he says, Bridger, go talk to your dad. Your dad knows about this way more than I do. And I said, no, my dad's kind of broke. Like, I want to learn from you, dude. Like, you're the guy. And I come to find out, he's like, he goes, Bridger, sorry to break it to you, but me and your dad make about the same amount of money.
Wow.
And my chin dropped to the floor. I was like, huh? Like, what? Come again? He's like, yeah, we're pretty much equal business partners in this. And I left the dude's house. I drove straight to my dad's house. I was like, Dad, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, why haven't I been able to order a soda at Chipotle for the past 10 years? Because it's too expensive. And yet you're managing these multi-billion-dollar funds. And long story short, my dad started to mentor and teach me. And so every Sunday night I drive to his house, and you've met my dad before, he's an incredible dude. And he would sit down and teach me on a whiteboard how funds are put together, how they're worked, how all this stuff works. And I was super intrigued. And to make a long story short, I like anything in life, when you start to learn about something, you start to recognize that thing in your life. And so I started to see opportunities where I could plug in a fund to different business models and different ideas. So I was in college, I was in school. I was also working an internship, getting out a job to make money. And at that job, I saw an idea where we could start a fund to finance some of the clients that were coming through. They needed financing for their products. And I said, this would be a great idea. So I took this idea to the owners of the company. They loved the idea. I took it to my dad. He loved it.
Sure.
And we started to put together this fund. We started to piece the pieces together. And then finally I hit this wall of like, crap, now I got to raise money. And I have no track record. I don't have a college degree. I've never ran a fund before. Like, who's going to give me money? And I was like, crap, like, what am I going to do? And then I thought, aha, easy. I'll go pitch my dad, right? My dad will invest in this fund for sure, right? And so I remember I went to my dad's house and I went to him and I said, Dad, I said, thank you so much for helping me with this fund, because he really did help me think through. He's a great mentor and coach. And I said, thank you so much. And I go, now it's time to raise money. And, how would you like to invest into this fund? And I pitched him on investing. And he kind of, said, well, Bridger, he goes, I have the money to invest, but if I invest in your fund, it would ruin the experience of you raising money on your own. And he says, this is a crutch that you'll never be able to recover from. So he said, no. He says, I'm not going to invest in your fund. You need to go learn this on your own. And so I walked out with my tail between my legs a little bit. And I said, you know what? I got to go figure this out. And so I was a little, kind of sad, tough love moment between me and my dad. And then I said, I'm going to do this. So I went out and I talked to everybody I knew, former bosses, college professors, whoever it was. I raised a whopping $49,500 from, I think, 6 or 7 investors. So teeny little, if you don't even have funds, that's like teeny small, but it was enough to get started. So we launched this little fund. I was 22 years old at the time. I launched this little fund and we started doing these loans. They were short-term loans. We made a 64% return on our money on that first group of investors, which was so cool. So small amount of money, but big return percentage. We then closed that fund. We launched our second fund. We raised and deployed millions of dollars out of that fund. Did really well. Ran that for about 3.5 years. It was awesome. And then I had a competitor come in and buy us out, gave us an offer. So I sold that fund. I exited, had a good little exit on it. It was awesome. And then during that time period, a lot of people started to ask myself, my dad, and my brother is also an investment funds attorney on funds. And none of us went to Ivy League schools. None of us, we all kind of had this untraditional route to get into funds. And so it's funny, I felt like this calling to like, we need to help people learn this game. We need to help more people understand how funds work and how they're put together and what this world even is. So I started a little podcast, then it turned into a show, which turned into a course and a community. And now we have 30,000 students around the world. We are throwing huge
already events. 30.
I think we're at 36,000 now around the world.
Wow.
We have a 2,500 person event we're throwing in Miami in a couple months. We threw in last year with 1,200 people. It's like blowing up like crazy. That's where I've met you, Sachin, and a bunch of other cool people. We have incredible funds in our group and community. We have multiple funds over 100 million, a couple of funds over $1 billion now, which is just so cool in our student funds.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And so that's been kind of the journey till today. And actually, I mentioned we launched another fund. I launched a crypto fund, a hedge fund with a few other partners. We raised $10 million on our initial launch. That fund has done really well. despite a terrible last year of crypto, our fund has actually performed really well, and we're actually doing awesome right now. And we've already, I'm now a partner on 6 different funds now, and we've partnered with some other funds that have launched. And so it's been cool. We're just growing the empire, and it's awesome. It's fun to help and serve and help more people understand this whole game. So I'll stop there, Sachin.
So sure. Thank you for whatever you're doing. And amazing story. I mean, I heard your story multiple times, but people need to hear this. And I mean, you started this back in like 4 years ago with a vision of helping people. Now, like 36,000 people. I mean, that's a lot of people. And I mean, I really appreciate whatever you're doing. I wanted to go back. What I do in my show is I wanted to start with who you actually are and why you are doing this. So we got the whole story behind it. The next question is, I want to go back to your childhood. There you are, like, you know, like 6, 7 years old of that time when your dad and, you know, family. My question is, what was your childhood dream when you were a kid?
So it's funny. I like as a little kid, I wanted to be like a sports star. I wanted to like play football or basketball, like a lot of kids do. But then as I got a little bit older, it was funny. My dad was really good at teaching us about money as kids. My dad before his funds had launched, I think 13 businesses before he launched a fund. He had done a jeans business. He had done like international trade, like all these other businesses. And some of them made money, some of them sucked, but he always talked about money and taught us. He was really good about teaching us kids about what a credit score was, what a mortgage is, how a bank works, how the stock market works. It was really actually insightful as a kid growing up. And so I really liked business as a kid.
Believe it or not, I started actually teaching my kids too about money and all that works, you know, when you start talking about those things.
I think it's so valuable. I got to college and I realized how many of my roommates had no idea about the most basic things of finance, like how a loan works, what's interest rate, like kind of basic things. But a lot of people don't know this. And I was like, wow, I'm really grateful for a good dad,
of course,
who, when we would drive somewhere, he would turn the radio off and say, hey guys, do you guys want to learn about, what a credit score means, and we were like, nah, but he'd like, I'm going to tell you anyways. And he'd teach us in the back of kids, So anyway, sorry, back to your question of what I wanted to be. So I remember learning what a business. I wanted to be, a CFO. I kept telling people like, I want to be a CFO one day, because I just thought it was a cool title and stuff. But I knew I wanted to be in business, be an entrepreneur. I started a couple businesses in school. I did a lawn care business. I was selling things to my friends and other stuff. And I knew I wanted to do business, and I knew I wanted to, and I thought, if I'm going to do business, I might as well do business at the fastest, most lucrative way, which is, I think, entrepreneurship. It seems pretty slow to work up the ladder for 40 years to get to a position when I can maybe start a business and get there a lot faster. And so then I said, I'm going to go entrepreneurship. And then I said, well, what type of entrepreneurship do I want to get into? And then I thought, well, I want businesses that are high margin, that I can make a lot of money and are relatively easy to start. And so I started like online marketing businesses because they were high margin, easy to start. And then I learned about funds, and I thought, these are really high margin. They're a little bit harder to start, but if I nail it, I can really make a ton of money. That's kind of how I narrowed down my thoughts on what to do. Was all about efficiency of what's the most efficient way to make money. Most people get divorced over money. They commit suicide over money. A lot of problems in life surround money.
Exactly.
Now money doesn't solve all your problems, but it solves a lot of them. And it can solve the problems for your aunts, your uncles, your grandma, your cousins, whoever it is. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to be the guy that's solved the money problem. So then I can go have a freedom and have an amazing life, and I can go skiing or go surfing or go do whatever I want and go serve people and pay for hospitals and do great, crazy stuff. And so I thought, what's the most efficient way to do that? And I kind of thought through business. That's my thought on life.
Yeah, of course. So money is interesting too. To me, the money is like oxygen. When you don't have it, then you realize the importance of money, So
yeah,
I really like that. Yeah. So the next question I have for you, Bridger, is, it's just a general question, but I want to hear from you. Who and what inspires you and drives you to be productive every day?
It's a good question.
I know your dad is one of them.
Yeah, I have an innate drive inside of me. I've realized that I like growth. I like to grow, and I like to become something bigger. And maybe that's from the way I was raised or whatever, but I have this innate desire to become better and grow and push myself. And I think a lot of people have that. I think you have that. I think a lot of people have that drive. So I think it's natural. There's kind of two sides of a coin though. It's pain and pleasure, right? What you're driving towards and also what you're running from. And so there's the pain of like, I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to be able to feed my family. There's also the drive of, okay, I want to have this cool house or have this car or whatever, drive or serve these types of people. And so
Sure.
in the past, it's been more of pain of like, I will make sure that we have food on the table, that my wife and kid, they are taken care of,
Of course.
And now I'm moving towards more of contribution, of where I feel this drive that there's somebody else, because I do a lot of stuff online. There's somebody else out there that needs to learn like about what a fund is or how business works or how life works. And I can it's been cool to see our community group of how many lives, like, and that sounds so cliche, but how many people have really changed their lives and businesses. And I had a guy come up to me
Absolutely.
6 months ago at one of our events, and he was just sobbing in tears. And he's like, Bridger, you have changed my life. And we started this business that's taken off. We've made all this money. And now I'm teaching my kids and my grandkids about this, and it's changing their lives. They're getting jobs in private equity. And he was just in tears. And I was like, wow, it really moved me and changed me. And I was like, okay, there's a higher thing here than just like doing business.
Well, yeah.
And it's not just about funds, but about life. And I hopefully can share good family values and good, help people come to God and come and serve their communities and do other things as well. And I feel like God has given me a microphone with, social media and following that I can just hopefully share good things to the world and spread goodness. And so the last year and a half, I've kind of transitioned from more of the pain of like, I'm not going to be homeless. I'm going to like make money. And now like, I think I've solved a lot of those things for myself. And now it's like, how do I serve? How do I contribute? How do I do more for people?
You're listening to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast with Dr. Sachin Maskey. Be sure to stop by SachinMaskeyMT.com to download a free copy of Dr. Maskey's book.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Yeah, one of the reasons actually I am doing a lot of what I'm doing right now is because of the fund that I've learned from your courses, an amazing community, amazing business partner. So we're going to talk more about that in a few minutes, but I would like to go. I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile today before I was interviewing you, and just checking out a few things that I wanted to, it's very interesting to know how you start and all that stuff. So back in 2013, I think you started doing stuff, looks like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think you started the first raise. I don't know, you talk about this in your other podcast, but it was $32,000. And you used to host event and student body president, I think, in 2000, Alta High School. Is that correct?
I was at high school in 2013. So that was in high school. I was
That's
a senior.
amazing, man.
Yeah, I was the student body president at high school, which was so fun. I loved it. We had an amazing high school, about 2,000 kids there, and it was one of my goals as a kid to be. My older brother was a student body president. I'm like, I want to be and I had a lot of great opportunities in high school. I was the captain of the football team. I was the captain of the lacrosse team. I was student body president. All these great things. And
right.
Every year they do a charity fundraiser. And so we did a fundraiser. We picked Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is awesome. If you guys know Make-A-Wish, they're cool.
Yep.
They're amazing organization. And we actually broke all the school record for like 30 years, whatever, for fundraising. We raised about $32,000 for this charity in like a month time period. And we like hosted all these crazy events, and we really got the school like all involved and riled up to like raise money for this. And
right.
It was pretty cool. So yeah, that was kind of fun. Matt, you really went back on so I was in high school. I was way back then. Yep.
Exactly. So, I was looking at other things, like you also went to Taiwan, right? For 2 years. And I think that was also pretty cool. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So right after high school, I decided to serve a church mission for my church.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you guys ever seen missionaries before, they go out with name tags and they're out there. That was me. I went and did that. So I went out for 2 years, and you don't choose where you go, by the way. So you just submit. How it works is you submit your papers to the church headquarters, and I think there's about 400 missions around the world.
Wow.
And you can opt in, like, hey, like you can kind of say if you have dietary restrictions or things like you don't go to, but I just said, hey, just put me wherever you want, whatever you think. And so what they do is, leader of the church, they pray about it and they say, hey, you're called. They give you a calling to go to somewhere, and I got called to Taiwan. And to learn Mandarin Chinese was on my call. Like, you need to learn Mandarin Chinese, and you're going to go to Taiwan for 2 years. And I was like, okay, here we go. And so my dad did a mission. He went to Alabama. My brother went to Toronto and also learned Mandarin Chinese. My wife went to Portugal and learned Portuguese. It's really cool. Really amazing experience. So I went to Taiwan, and it absolutely changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. So it was just incredible. I was a pretty arrogant, I still am kind of arrogant, I guess, but I was pretty arrogant, cocky kid out of high school. And I went to Taiwan, and man, you show up and all you have there, you don't have any personal cell phone. You don't have a computer. You have nothing. You have your bags, your clothes, you have some books that you're going to share about Jesus. And you have they have a companion, one other person that's your age, like 22 years old, has been there about a year maybe.
Right.
And they're supposed to teach you and lead you along. And you're supposed to go meet people and talk to them in Chinese. And it was the most humbling experience of my entire life.
So you can speak Chinese now?
I can. Yeah, I'm pretty good now. But at the time, I was terrible, right? Like I couldn't speak a word. And so you would go try to talk. You're trying to just approach people on the street and say like, do you want to learn about Jesus? And you're in broken Chinese. And I mean, people.
That's amazing, man.
People were, cordial, but also kind of like get away from me, kind of rude. And you get rejected 1,000 times. I mean, and it's really, it can be very disheartening of like, man, and then you're trying to learn a language. And the amazing thing though about missions is, I mean, almost everyone that goes ends up being almost perfectly fluent in their language.
Yep.
They end up, so after it really humbled me, which is good. And then I was able to grow from being humbled. And so I think God blessed me to learn Chinese. And we were able to see incredible, I would call them miracles on my mission. We saw people absolutely change their lives. We'd go teach, and that's all we did was just teach. I didn't go to school. I didn't have a girlfriend. I had nothing. Like that's what we did for 2 years. And we had one guy that was addicted to porn for years. He was a chain smoker for like 20 years. We met him, taught him about Jesus and changing his life, and we helped him revamp. And he quit smoking like overnight. Never went back to it. Well, at least as far as I know, till right now, never went back to smoking. Stopped porn. We picked up, he had like CDs of porn, hundreds of them in his house. And his walls were yellow with smoke and like the ceilings because he smoked so much.
Exactly.
So we went to his house. We like got garbage bags. We like put all the porn tapes in and we like threw them away. We repainted all of his walls. And we're like, dude, like this is your time to change. And he really did change his life. He had kids that had kind of estranged themselves from him. He got in touch with his kids again. And like it really turned around his whole life. And I have so many experiences like that. It was just amazing.
Sure.
And so I could go on and on, but it was a fantastic experience.
Definitely a good experience, a lot of nice. And I think you started a tutoring company after that when you came back, and you did a couple other things, and finally you launched the one of the things you did is Fun Lunch, and that's when we get connected.
Yep.
My question is why Fun Lunch? I think, how did the idea came in your head, and what is your long-term vision of this company? Where do you want to take it from now, 5 years from now?
Yeah, good question. So it was funny enough, I was in college, I was running my fund, and I had this idea to teach people about investment funds. And it just came to my mind or whatever, and I kind of shrugged it off. I just said, I got other stuff going on. I was a good student. I had really good grades in college. I was going to do investment banking on Wall Street. That was my plan. I was like, I'm going to go do banking and go to Wall Street and do that and go work my way up or launch my own fund or whatever. And I went to Silicon Valley. I got an internship. They gave me a 6-figure offer and stock options and everything and bonuses to go and work for this big company. And so I was at this point, this is right before Fun Launch even was an idea. And I remember I'm trying to be a prayerful person. And I remember I take prayer notes is what I call them. And whenever I meditate or pray, and I had probably 6 or 7 times distinct impressions, like you need to start Fund Launch or Investment Fund Secrets. At the time, we kind of changed the name, but you need to do this. You need to help people learn about funds. And I kind of shrugged it off. And I finally said, okay, I have to do this. I have to do this. I feel like I'm called to do this. And so within about a couple of months, I turned down the job offer in Silicon Valley. I actually opted out of my program at BYU. Finance. I got into the program. I was in this, like, it's a very exclusive program. It's very hard to get into. I got into it. I opted out of it to delay it another year. I bought a house actually because of prayer. And then I also started Fund Launch in the same like month.
Oh, wow.
And I just felt like this calling to do this. And we kind of eased our way into Fund Launch. We started a podcast first and it kind of took off. And then we started a small little mini course that was like $47. We tried to test it online. It went really well.
This was
incredible feedback.
Back in 2019, right? If I'm not
2019,
wrong.
yeah. This is like June to December of 2019. And so I did that, and we launched this little mini course. The idea was we spent $500 on ads, and we just thought, let's just see what happens with $500 on like Facebook ads.
Yeah.
And that $500 turned into $1,800 in like a weekend.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, this is pretty cool. So then we took the $1,800, we put it back in, then it turned into like to $3,000. And then it turned to, in the first month, we spent $80,000 in ads.
Yep.
And we made back about $80,000 back on that, which is pretty cool. So we broke even, but we created an incredible list. That was our whole goal, was to break even. So we had like 1,000 buyers of our little thing. And then we had this little audience. We're like, hey, okay, do you guys want to learn more? Like, do you want to do other stuff? So we started to launch the products. We did events. And literally this whole company, we've done, I don't know, something like 17, 18 million in sales in about 3 years. Huge profit margins, incredible events, everything. We have about 50 employees now.
Wow.
Was started on $500 and a kind of a hope and a prayer. And it's been incredible to start and do. So
no, that's amazing. One of the reasons I guess I found you personally, my personal experience was when I saw your video, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. It's about your famous fund launch formula, that how to launch fund, right? I think that always reminds me of 3 circles you put in your whiteboard. There's something called expert, fund manager, and capital raiser. So maybe you can talk about that to our audience. My audience is mostly doctors and dentists, and maybe you can. And the way you explained was so simple. And when I saw your video, it was well done, and I really wanted to learn more about it. Now we are doing a fund ourselves. We're trying to do $100 million fund with that video, and it's changing my life and going to change somebody's life. I think if you can explain then from today,
Yeah. So let's just start the basics. Like, what is a fund, right? What even is a fund?
Exactly.
So when we use this word fund, all a fund means, in my opinion, is it's a pool of money. Investors, people put money into this pool, and then people like us can draw from that pool, and we go make investments. Whenever those investments make money, they flow back to the pool and then get split between ourselves and the fund manager. So for example, like back in the olden days, it's like, hey, let's open up a blacksmith shop, put some money in. Whenever the shop makes money, we'll just split it between ourselves and our investors. It's like one of the oldest business models on planet Earth. It's really not that crazy. So now you have people that do, like, for example, like a real estate fund.
Absolutely.
Put money into this real estate fund, a pool. We'll go buy a huge, big office building. And then whenever the office building makes money, we'll just split the returns. Okay, that's all a fund is. So for example, then what's the difference between a hedge fund or private equity fund or real estate fund or debt fund? The only difference is what they buy. So a real estate fund buys and sells real estate. It's a pool of money that buys and sells real estate. A private equity fund is just a pool of money that buys and sells private equity or private ownership of businesses. They buy privately held businesses. So for example, we had a guy that buys and sells restaurants. Mm-hmm. So he goes and buys privately owned restaurants, pools them together, and then they have a conglomerate. They have economy of scale. They can scale them or whatever they want to do with them. There's a big private equity firm on Wall Street, Sycamore Partners. They bought Nine West Shoes, Aeropostale. They were trying to buy Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a private equity fund. They buy up privately held businesses. Again, pool of money, they'd buy them. A hedge fund, instead of buying private businesses, they buy public businesses. So they buy stocks, bonds, options, Forex. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Whenever those make money, they just split them with their investors. So it's not that. Hopefully that's pretty simple. It's not that crazy. Okay. This is it's not that crazy of a world. So we teach people you guys can do this. You guys can launch funds. Like, Sachin, what's your fund? What are you guys doing?
We're doing a real estate fund with of course, ground up development. We're building townhomes and opportunity zone. That's what we're doing. I'm also in the board of 50.ai now, hedge fund. And, so we're doing a couple of things.
Yeah. Okay. So right there, like a real estate fund that builds townhomes, right? We can put money in and we can go build townhomes. And I'm an investor in 3 funds. I put my money in. I don't have to do anything. They just do it all for me. It's awesome. I get a check at the end of the month. It's amazing. Okay. So that's the world of funds. So when starting a fund, we have what's called the fund launch formula, how to start. We help people actually build these things. So we have a 4-step formula. We can dive into that if you want to, Sachin. Then we kind of
sure, definitely. That would be great.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay, I'll go quick. So a lot of people think okay, I want to start a fund or do this. Step 1, I'm going to go hire a lawyer. That's what most people think they should do. And I always tell people hold on, don't hire a lawyer. Lawyers will be very expensive. They will charge you $60,000, $100,000 to teach you about your fund, and it's a really inefficient way. Lawyers are not good teachers, okay?
That's the last thing you should do.
Yeah, that's the last thing you should do. So step 1, I tell people, is find a great deal, okay? Go and find an incredible opportunity. Like you found townhomes, or you're going to go do an opportunity. We're going to trade crypto. We're going to go buy this business. Find an incredible deal first.
Exactly.
Step 2, I'll go quick and we can dive in more, but step 2, then frame that out. So build that into a pitch deck, build out your team. How are you going to actually make money? Are you going to build the townhomes in 1 year, 6 months? How long are you going to hold them? When are you going to sell them? What's the whole strategy and plan? To really think through that strategy and kind of vet it. And then step 3, go and I call it soft pitch investors. Mm-hmm. So go out and actually verbally get commitments from investors and see what people think. This is kind of your market testing. So go pitch Sachin or myself or Joe Schmo down the street and say, hey, we're going to go build some townhomes over here. What do you think? Would you actually put money into this? Like, poke holes in it for me, see what's wrong with it. And oftentimes these investors are smart people. They're going to poke holes in it. And maybe you'll have to go back to step number 1. Maybe I got to find a different deal, or step 2, like restructure your team or how you're going to do this deal. And then you kind of reiterate this. Once we try to get people about $2 to $3 million of verbal commitments. And then we say, okay, then move to step 4, which is go hire the lawyers. Okay, the lawyers then can go build it for you. They can put it all together really quickly, and you know exactly what you want for your fund, and they'll do it for a fraction of the cost. You're not paying $60,000. Maybe you're paying $30,000 or $20,000 or $15,000, which is, by the way, reimbursable back to you from the fund. So it's a way more efficient way to launch your fund. We followed that process. We launched 120 funds last year out of our group, which was so cool. So wow. It's something it's worked, and it's pretty. That's the crash course. I could talk for 2 hours on the fund launch formula, but that's the crash course of it.
I mean, that's a I guess formula, and exactly anyone can $1 million fund or $100 $1 billion fund have the same formula, And but my question, another quick question is: do you need any license to start the fund? Do you need as a fund manager?
Yeah, great question. It depends. I hate that answer, but it depends, and I'll tell you what it depends upon. So, funds that are, well, just in general, the only license you would need is a Series 65. Mm-hmm. So a Series 65 allows, that's what it's called, a Series 65, like the number 65. Mm-hmm. It allows you to give investment advice. So if you've ever seen somebody that's like, I'm an investment advisor, that's what a Series 65 allows you to do, is become an investment advisor representative. And so in a fund, oftentimes you're giving investment advice. However, what's cool about funds is you can file for exemptions from this license. And so a lot of funds, if you're under $150 million AUM, mm-hmm. so $150 million underneath, you can file for an exemption. And it depends on what state you're in the United States or what country, what their laws are. But a lot of the times you can file for an exemption because you're only giving investment advice just to your fund.
Right.
You're not giving investment advice to your brother-in-law and your cousin and your grandparents. You're only giving investment advice to your fund, which is your client. And because of that, it's not really like they at least give you an exemption. So it's called, you become an exempt reporting advisor. And so a lot of funds you can start without a license. So I've actually ran all 3 of my funds without a license. I actually was going to get a license for this the fund we just did. And my lawyers told me, don't get a license. You don't need it. And I said, really? And they said, no, you don't need it. You can file for this exempt and you're good. And I said, okay. And they said, actually, there's more liability. If you get a license, there's actually more liability and other things that kind of you have to file. And it's actually in your favor to not get licensed. So I said, okay, sure. That's fine. Some funds you can do it, you cannot do it. So it's actually pretty cool to not give legal advice or anything. I don't, go talk to a lawyer in your state and stuff. But
so it all depends on number one is the state, and number one amount of fund you're raising. Sounds like.
Yep. And then also the fund type that you're doing. So
sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the fund launch live that you're trying to host. When, and I want to know about who should attend this and why, and where people can find more about the fund launch live you're doing next couple of months from now.
Yeah, so last year we held the first fund launch live ever. We sold out, actually. We had 1,200 people show up live, which was just crazy. It was in Las Vegas. Wow. This is last year.
By the way, I missed that.
Oh, did you miss it? Oh, shoot. It was really fun. So it was 3 days, and we fly in speakers from all over the world to teach investment funds. So how to raise capital, how to start a fund, how to build one, how to do your first deal. It's all around funds, this whole conference. Whether it's raising funds, you may be getting funds for your business, whatever it is. We talk about all that kind of stuff. And so this year, we're doing it twice as big. So we're doing it in May 10th through the 12th. Fund Launch Live is going to be in Miami, Florida. 2,500 people. We got Ed Milet coming to speak. He's a huge motivational speaker. We got Jim Rogers, which is the co-founder of the Quantum Fund with George Soros, which is one of the most famous funds of all time. Mm-hmm. We've got a handful of other incredible fund managers, guys that run $100 million funds, guys and gals that run, $1 billion funds are coming to speak and share. And we have breakout sessions. We have we try to really move the needle. Some conferences are kind of dry and boring, and I don't whatever they are. We have a lot of energy. We're super high energy. We have tons of fun. We also, we go all out, and we try to teach you nuggets that you can take home with you.
I'm here to give my recommendation to the people who are listening. I've been to all the events for Bridger, It's one of the coolest event I've ever been to. Like, he does cool stuff like, poker. We did that in Black Card, remember? I don't know if you're going to do that in the Fun Lines Live, but it's crazy that he does, Because of the time, I would like to jump into a couple of quick questions. I don't know how much time we have, but just want to.
I've just got a few. I got to leave in about 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So where can people find those information? Is the website people can go and sign up, correct?
Yeah. So fundlaunch.com, if you remember that. So fundlaunch.com, that has all of our stuff there. We got Fund Launch Live. We actually have a free course on funds. If you guys want to go just learn for free, we have 40 plus videos that walk you through what funds are, how they work. It's 100% free, and you guys can go just check it out. We have a full free course. And my hope with that is, you can learn. We want to educate more people, and maybe one day if you want to start a fund, you can call me up, and you can, we have other paid stuff that we can help you launch. We have lawyers that come in and build your fund for you, but I really just want to help more people launch funds, and so fundlaunch.com has everything.
Yeah, we'll put that details in the down below our channel.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
sure, definitely. 2 more questions, then we should be all set. Second last question. What is your biggest win in your life, and how you define success?
Biggest win in my life was marrying my wife. And I don't say that cheesily. I wanted to marry my wife for like 2.5 years, and I finally married her, which was amazing. So we grew up on the same street together. I've known my wife for my whole life. We got to college. I went on my mission, so I was gone for 2 years. I got home. We started to date. We were like in love. We were going to get married. And then she wanted to serve a mission. So she left and went to 18 months to Portugal. And it like broke my heart. And because you can't really communicate. You can like once a week, you can write an email. That's it. And so she was gone for 18 months and it was really hard. And then she came home and I really had to, court her and date her. And then we got married and it was amazing. And she's just my best friend. That's probably my biggest win in my whole life, to be honest. Like I'm being dead serious. And that was amazing. So I don't know what the other question was.
So the question was, how you define success?
Oh, how do I define success? Man, I think my honest answer, and I'll give you my honest answer. Maybe I did not agree with this, but my kind of culture and religion growing up is the purpose of life is to become like God and to become like Him. And I think success in life is when you become more like, and I believe God is our loving Heavenly Father, like a perfected being of us and who we can be, and not just like a mythical creature. Like he's a person with flesh and bones, a man, and like you can become like him. Like kind of like you're a doctor, like you have an infant that could become a doctor one day through a lot of struggle and trial and going to college and working and becoming. You can become a brain surgeon. And so my definition of success is
I love it, man.
Becoming more like God, becoming more perfected. And that means I think having a family and raising kids, it teaches you how to run and teaches you so many things. How to run a business teaches you so many things. How to manage money or manage capital or manage land or manage people and employees. Like it all teaches you to become something greater and become something like God. So when I think about success, that's my honest answer. I don't know if people agree with me with that, but
no, I do agree.
Something, it's major.
God is within us. I believe in, totally. And last question, I know you're going out of the time here. Where can people find you, and what is the one thing you can share today before you leave?
Yeah, again, fundlaunch.com. We're just Bridger Pennington on all social medias. Go look me up. So Bridger Pennington or fundlaunch.com. You can find our free course, all that kind of stuff. And sorry to cut you short. I'm so sorry. I got to run here. But
sure, no
the
problem.
last thing I'll share is, I think you're amazing at this, Sachin, is really think through life and be aware of your life and where you're spending your time, your talents, your energy, your effort. And let me unpack that for a second. I know I have a lot of friends and people that I've grown up with that are, it feels like they're kind of asleep at the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of asleep as parents. They're kind of asleep in their job and how they approach finances. They're kind of asleep in their marriage. They're kind of asleep in their fitness. And I
call it comfort zone.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Comfort zone. And they don't really step back and say, you know what? Like, if I win the finance game, if I take 20 years of effort and put it into 3 years, I could probably just win the finance game. Or if I learned investing or how to save money, some people are just so passive how they think about money, or they're so passive how they think about fitness or health or emotional health or, their family or their kids. And I think those are things that you can't drop in life. And I would leave with people to become really aware of where you're at and how you spend your time. And literally, like, we all have the same 24 hours a day. Why do some people live incredible, extraordinary lives and others kind of are in their comfort zone and just kind of bounce along, And if you really can step back and say, you know what, I'm going to live an extraordinary life. I'm going to live, and you can go online and see incredible stories of people that were rags to riches. You get any background, any situation, any skin color, you can live an extraordinary life. I truly believe that. And so that's what I'll leave people with. Be awake.
No, thank you. I truly believe we have one life, so we need to spend properly. And
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. But anybody who's listening to this podcast, I really appreciate it. You can subscribe and like and follow to get more guests in the future. Thank you, Bridger, for your time, and really appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Dream Big and Think Different. We hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any gold nuggets. We would appreciate it if you could rate and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And be sure to stop by SachinMaskeyMD.com to download a free copy of Sachin's book. Until next time.